Which kind of raises the point, doesn't it? I mean, I've been interested in integrative health for over 40 years, and I've always thought, no, sleeping and breathing are foundational, nutrition, environmental medicine important. But over the last 5 or 10 years, particularly, I've come to realize, and many people talk about, the metabolic nature of disease and particularly mitochondrial function, which leads us into the whole realm of quantum biology. And we start to think about ourselves as walking electricity. You mentioned milliamps, which in a body sense is quite an intervention. I think we function on, is it true, microamps or nanoamps? I mean, what is body electricity? How do we measure that in ampage?
Oh, that's a great question. It's really unclear in terms of the intensity of the current we're talking about, but there are a range of therapies that are out there that are believed in sort of low intensity micro amp current stimulation techniques. And the idea is that these low intensities, you shouldn't even feel it, but these low intensities are sort of accessing this electrical system that seems to be more sensitive to these low intensity microcurrents compared to the higher intensity currents that you see, for instance, in TENS devices. The TENS devices tend to be pretty strong. And interestingly or curiously, the TENS devices came out of a lot of the acupuncture related studies that were done by Bruce Pomerantz and Jisheng Han. And those studies, as I stated before, used high intensity electrical stimulation. But I think the mechanisms through which these microcurrent interventions and how it affects the body aren't entirely clarified yet. And I think that's an area of interest of mine. And I still think it's a mystery to many.
And you mentioned the Japanese form of acupuncture, which is even lower intervention. It kind of suggests that there's energy within our body, but that energy radiates beyond our body, and things can influence us that don't necessarily even touch our body. I suppose a good example of that would be the sun.
Oh, yeah.
We don't come into contact with the sun, but it is undeniably an important factor in our health. So maybe not surprisingly, something of low touch. You must have given a great deal of thought to how this Japanese acupuncture, and you say it's not entirely clear, but I imagine, Andrew, you've got your own hypotheses on this, and I'm not going to hold you to a randomized double-blind controlled trial. We're not in a scientific community here. I'm just intrigued to know, if you were shooting the breeze, what some of your thoughts were on how this all worked.
Yeah, I have a number of hypotheses, some of which, I would love to pursue still, but, at the time, what I had done was I was really interested in the electrical properties of these meridians and points. Now, if indeed these low intensity, low intervention acupuncture points were accessing some system electrically, then I thought that there had to be some kind of electrical pathway that operated in the body. And, there was some early studies done by Robert Becker in the 1950s and 60s that sort of had this idea of these paraneural pathways that wasn't exactly in the nerves itself, but possibly the myelin sheaths or the paraneural cells that are around it